think my biggest takeaway here is I think we are starting to get closer to what our new look, inverted commas, strongest team or best team kind of looks like. And I think it's starting to look like this. And what's I think so encouraging is there are new faces here. If we look at players who weren't at the 2023 World Cup, in this 23, there was no Thomas du Toit. There was no Ruan Nokia. There was no Sasha. There was no Ethan Hooker. There was no Jan-Hendrik Wessels. There was no Bowen Venter. There was no Wilco Louw. There was no Morne van den Berg. That's 8 players in the 23 that weren't at the last World Cup, that are in inverted commas potentially our strongest, And I think the injuries, for example, are Lourdes Diago, who ironically actually also wasn't part of the 2023 World Cup, as well as Apelele Fassi, as well as Jean-Luc Dupré. So everybody that was worried that we're not changing, we're not progressing, for example, that we're not building depth, without being mean, you're wrong. Because we are. We very, very clearly are. And I think the main thing as well is we are starting to see combinations develop, and we're starting to see players being backed in positions where they might be worried about depth. Jesse Creel can make the next World Cup. I think age-wise, profile-wise, he can make the next World Cup. Lekanya however, he's never been the same after that injury. And I don't think there are tons of 13s coming through. There's a man called Henk van Wyk who keeps getting injured. If he stayed fit, then I think he'd actually probably be in the mix. So Canan Moodie is now being developed as the future Block 13. Same as Ethan Hooker, for example, I think is being... We could have gone with Maxwell Mapimpi, but we've gone with Ethan Hooker again. And I think all of a sudden, long-term, we're looking at replacements there. Ruan Nokia is the long-term replacement for Franco Master and Lourdes Diago, and he's being backed. Thomas du Toit, Wilco Louw, both went at the last World Cup. We've got injuries to Frans Malherbe as well as Cheva Nyakane. Vincent Koch has yet to play a single game in the Rugby Championship, same as Bongi Mbanambi. Same as, I think Franco Master hasn't played since the second Australian test. So we're almost all of a sudden seeing players who are, inverted commas, surplus to requirements